Hi, this is Steve, Dichroic Glassman. I realized there's a couple other things I could do with this continuation of this project that I was working on. Heating up my soldering irons. I use two and I use them full blast. I can solder fast enough to where I can use two irons at the same time and not burn out my irons. Duh, la-di-da, so big deal. I have literally soldered over miles of solder. I've made over 2,500 windows, mostly copper foil, and I've gone through over thousands of pounds of solder, literally thousands of pounds. I know that sounds kind of strange, but it's no matter, big deal. Anyway, what I really wanted to show was, have you ever started a window? See, this window was started a couple months ago and I had it in storage because I've moved, I've done all kinds of things. Have you ever come across a window, or you live in a high humidity area where the back of your copper foil was oxidized? It turned corroded. Well, here's one way of approaching that. Get some mineral spirits, as you can see here. Get a little rag, and what you're going to do is you're going to gently wipe down the window on your copper foil lines. And what you're going to find out, several things, is it's starting to shine up the copper foil. It's eating off a lot of the residue. Now, some people can't stand copper or mineral spirits, so work in a well ventilated area. And what this is doing, if you don't do this, you're going to have a difficult time. You're going to come up with a lot of these little marks where the solder doesn't want to take to the copper foil. I left this intentionally so that you can see exactly what I mean. Surely people who have watched this will see this video have had this opportunity. If you've copper foiled and you've soldered and you've done a window where it's been a week or two or a month or who knows how long, to where you've soldered the front of your window but you hadn't gotten to the back yet, and now you're finding it is nearly impossible to solder the back because it's all become oxidized and corroded. Well, you will find that the majority or a great deal of the oxidation will come off with just a little bit of mineral spirits. You will find that it's restoring it nearly to a copper. And then what you want to do is you want to get a piece of fine. This is coarse. I use coarse steel wool to clean my brushes off, my irons, not on a window. The only reason I'm doing that now is because I'm holding the video camera with my right hand. So what you do want to do is you want to do it over a bucket, like I use down here, and just take your tip. I don't use the wet sponge that they want you to use in here, because you're going to lose the integrity of that tip. Hot to cold, hot to cold, hot to wet, hot to wet. I believe. This is my belief. Doesn't make it so just because I believe it. I'm using two of these irons. They're not heating up my window whatsoever because this is keeping the heat from this iron is contained right here, so it's not even hot down here to transfer to my window. You don't slide this dude around on your window. You pick up your iron and you set it over here. Otherwise you'll scratch your window or you'll tear your foil. But I'm very confident in myself, so I don't have a problem with that. So anyway, once you've cleaned it up with your mineral spirits, you take fine steel wool, not this coarse one, and then you gently would go over that, very gently, because you don't want to tear up your foil or anything like that. And what you're doing is you're just getting it shiny again. Just going over my piece very lightly, and I've restored it nearly to its original shiny copper state. I have done this so many times with windows where people have brought them into my shop and they've had this problem. Can you help me? I forgot to solder the back, or yada yada. And I love soldering. It's one of my favorite parts. Go figure. To a lot of copper foil people, they hate soldering. I love soldering. I've actually soldered windows for people totally. I mean, we almost had a business doing it. They love doing everything but the soldering, and I would solder them for them, and I had no problem. I love soldering. I understand solder. Solder and I have no arguments, and I can solder easily and effortlessly. I love soldering. I've got this is totally copper foil. I know that sounds kind of silly, but there is no oxidation on here anymore. Versus the oxidation used to be kind of corroded. Well, I've already wiped this whole window down, so I wish I could show you. I should have kept some dramatic corrosive areas. That's pretty corrosive. It's no longer shiny, it's very dull. So anyway, just an idea. Use some mineral spirits very lightly. Go over your joints. You will see that the mineral spirits, and guess what? This is so weird that the mineral spirits almost acts like a flux in helping you, enable you to solder. I know that sounds kind of crazy. Don't go trying it out just for the fun of it unless you want to. But I have an easier time of soldering the back of a window if I do use mineral spirits. I'm talking about a brand new window, because what the mineral spirits does is it cleans off all the excess flux that came through from the back side. It takes off my paint pen marks, really cleans up the window. I use mineral spirits often in my windows. It adds, now when I use my flux and I use a paste flux, it really takes off. I can create a solder bead that's impeccable with mineral spirits, cleaning my foil, and now my paste flux. I know that sounds kind of strange. Test it. If you got some mineral spirits, just put a little bit on there. There's no mineral spirits left on here other than its own residue. So I don't glop it on and drip it or anything like that. Just be I just put some on my rag, enough to clean it off. There'll be some microscopic residue there. Once you put your paste flux right over the top of it, you will find that your solder flows a lot easier. This is particularly interesting for people who live in very high humid areas. My shop right now is no longer in a shop like I used to have in Asheville. It's now out in a barn, and I've actually had to insulate my little booth that I'm standing in talking in here right now. So because California has very high humidity right now this time of year. It's been raining all day. It's been raining for days. And typically, if you don't solder a window right away, your piece is oxidizing already. Some of you people already know what that means. You go in your basement and it's wet and it's mildewy and you're having a tough time soldering. Well, this is one way of approaching that. Clean your window off with the mineral spirits. It cleans off the residue. It gives it a virgin texture, or microscopically clean right there at that moment. Solder right there at that time, and I'll bet you anything you'll find out that your window solders up a lot easier than it was. I was talking about this area before on video number 2, well actually 1 and 2 of this series. So I left my bevel out. I'm going to go ahead and solder my whole back. I'm going to flip the window over in case there was any question, and then I'm going to drop this in very last, right side up. If there was any confusion, I want to clarify that. So right now I'm going to solder the back of my window, and when I get it soldered, I will flip the window over, and then I will drop in this thing to perhaps make sense for any of those that might have had a slight bit of confusion. Hopefully that didn't happen. So thanks for watching this video. There'll be 4 videos in this series, and or maybe even 5. The last one will be clean, and I'll show you what it looks like. Right now this looks kind of weird, but you're going to love it when you see it blackened with patina, clean, and seeing daylight on the other side of it. Bye-bye.